which is what China's doing is not just simply uplifting a company. They are doing that. They're uplifting whole cities.
芝加哥大学政治学教授佩普访华后，没把中国 AI 的优势归到某个模型，他看到的是技术怎样和一座城市一起运转。接下来听他为什么拿武汉做例子。
You're there for 2 weeks, 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you're in the factories, you're in places. What did you learn about where China's at that the rest of the world is not aware of?
Yeah, what I learned is we're tracking about, I would say, from the newspapers, that is Wall Street Journal, New York Times, even the business side, probably about 10% of the real big picture of what's happening in China. What we are doing is taking a soda straw view of what's happening, focusing on individual companies. And I know because when I went, I wanted to visit the companies, BYD, Xiaomi, which is another electric vehicle manufacturer. It's like the Porsche level. And also Alibaba, also some laser advanced AI in Wuhan. And I wanted to go visit the companies because that's what I thought I should do. I wanted to see, and I did. I visited the companies on the shop floor. I got a chance to see how the robots actually work. For hours, not just for a few minutes. And I did learn some things there, and I'll come back to the detail in just a second. But by doing this, by going to not just Beijing and Shanghai, which many people will do all the time here, but by going to Wuhan, Hangzhou, Shenzhen, to actually go on the shop floor, spend hours and hours and hours there, then go to dinner with the executives to really talk about the situation here, also in the Middle East. I learned something really big, Patrick. So think not about an AI company in Pittsburgh. Think Pittsburgh itself is being uplifted. So what I saw was, say, I'll just pick Wuhan because Wuhan is an old steel city like Pittsburgh is. Now it's 9 million. Pittsburgh's about 350,000, so it's bigger. But what they did in Wuhan was they are uplifting all of the medical industry. They are uplifting all of the city's transit infrastructure with AI. I don't just mean redoing paving the potholes here. They are uplifting, when you go to get your driver's license in these cities that I've been in, they have rebuilt the entire buildings where it's not that they just accommodate your cell phone. It's like start cell phone, build building around the idea of a cell phone. Okay, this is a completely different experience. Where you go into the building to get either you want a building permit or you want your driver's license here, you're going in and the very first thing you do is you have to tap your phone so that you get everything downloaded on your phone because there's an awful lot of forms you need to fill out. And you might try to do this at home, but they explained to me, yes, but when we try to do that, we need to have people standing on the side so that there's always going to be a question here or there that you're going to have. And so then what do you have? You don't have these long lines. City of Chicago motor vehicle, oh my goodness gracious. Just imagine, if those of you could just imagine, it's worse than you imagine, okay? But what happens in these advanced cities now, is they have the equivalent of Starbucks right there. They have little areas for the kids to play because what the parents have to do, the adults have to come in is they got to go and work on their cell phone to fill out all these forms. And then they will have about 10% contact with humans, other people there, because it's not going to be just, you can't do everything on your phone, but it dramatically reduces all of the issues we deal with. So it's they are uplifting whole city. And then one of the big fears we have here about AI is it's going to put everybody, it's to make everybody unemployed. That's not what's happening in Wuhan and Shenzhen and Hangzhou. You're having massive construction. because what you're doing is you're feeding AI in at every single street corner. When you get this will probably happen to us very soon. When you get a speeding ticket, now you know how we have the red lights here. Okay,
They take the pictures.
They take the picture, and we get about 2 weeks later here, and you don't know that it happened for 2 weeks. Okay, what happens in China, and they showed me, literally the driver showed me this, is when you run that speeding ticket, you get it in 2 seconds.
Stop it.
And they take it right out. No, and you could just push pay now.
That
okay?
is hilarious.
And so it's happening like that.
Kind of would be good for me. I have way too many tickets. My license got suspended for the 3rd time 2 weeks ago.
Well,
my wife's like, your license is. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes, unpaid ticket.
So, but that doesn't happen without massive construction. So their construction workers are actually doubled what they were over the last 10 years. The health industry is growing as well because all of this, it's not about the company alone. And then the other thing that I really was just knocked me off my socks was the integration with university systems. Mm-hmm. So now, of course, I'm a professor and I'm interested in doing that. And as I'm doing this tour, they want to hear my talks on, say, Trump foreign policy and tariffs, things like that. So that's natural. I would also go to the university. But when I go to the universities, I'm getting these deep presentations, not just me talking to them, about how they're integrating with the AI, because you've got basically AI that doesn't need a BA, you've got AI that needs a BA, AI that needs a master's, and AI that needs PhDs. And then they started to take me these different firms. So a lot of the firms are what's called vertically integrated, where what they're doing is building their own silicon chips. So they took me to the chip factories. So this would be a chip factory. I went in, say, Wuhan, which is part of a AI laser company. So they have the AI lasers here that are doing all this special carving with lasers and AI, but then they do their own chips. So they took me to the chips where you've got to get all dressed in the suits because you can't have any spotty, any dirt that gets in. And then they started to explain to me that, and they showed me that what's really happening here is you can't do this with BAs. You've got to actually have masters, and some of the chip assemblies here need to be done with PhDs because it's really very technical and very specific. It's not just people turning widgets or screwdrivers like Howard Lutnick was describing about a year ago on a Sunday show. This is a very different thing. So you want to work very closely with universities. So I'm coming back and I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. And I've seen Erie, Pennsylvania, just kind of the bottom fall out since over the last 30, 40 years. It breaks my heart. I mean, we basically have we used to have all these industries, and we had paper industries, all these tool and die industries here. You know what the big industries in Erie, Pennsylvania are? Hospitals where you're born and funeral parlors where you die. Okay? And this just breaks my heart here. And we just don't have any real approach like this. But what China's doing is they're not just uplifting a DeepSeek or an Alibaba. They are creating webs of doing that. But 90% of this is happening in a much broader context where they're taking, say, a St. Louis, and they're uplifting the whole area. They're taking a Pittsburgh, they're uplifting the whole city. They're taking Detroit, and they're uplifting the whole city. And I went in that 2-week period, I went to these four areas. It's about 50 million people that are being uplifted. Now, maybe they haven't uplifted anybody else. I don't know. I didn't actually. They're telling me that if I went to the more rural areas, I'd be impressed there too, and maybe I will go back. But the bottom line is, let's assume it's only 50 million people. Only 50 million people, and we're going to look down on that? No, I think they're 10, 20 years ahead of us, maybe even more, not because of they're a couple months ahead or behind on DeepSeek or ChatGPT, but because of uplifting the entire cities here. And this is, what digital China is uplifting this whole area. And quite a few of these business owners, when I had dinners with them here, they would tell me their personal story, just like when we started out here. And almost, many of them had a very similar story, which was, well, in the 1980s or 90s, I lived in rural areas and I didn't even have shoes. And now, look at me. Okay, so this could be America.
Well, this is America. They kind of duplicated us. Without us,
but where are we? Where are we right now? You see, I believe
we are the juggernaut. We are the greatest country in the world that everybody copies and duplicates. And steals from.
Let's get juggernauting. Okay, so I am definitely. I'm not going to become a salesman or sort of supporter of China. I'm going and looking at this as let's get moving here. And I don't think we're even getting to first base. I don't know if we're really out of the batter's box here. A little bit more. So my first trip to China was 1979. 79. I was a first-year undergrad at the University of Pittsburgh. I heard about a trip that 30 of our professors were going on to study the economic industries in China. A couple graduate students were going, and I said, well, are there any undergrads going? Oh, no. So I wrote a letter to the chancellor. His name was Wesley Posvar, and 2-page letter. Brilliant idea. You're going to be the first university trip ever. Too bad you don't have an undergrad going. I got a free trip to China. Okay. So I always tell that story to my students. So just write those letters. What do you got to lose? Okay. And so I get a 5-week trip. This was not a short thing.
Wow.
5 weeks.
79.
Okay? 1979. And what we did is we went, started in Hong Kong. We went to it's called Canton. That's not the Chinese name, but that's the Americanization of it. And then we basically went to multiple cities, just like I did here. And my presentation shows I have the before and after here. And Shenzhen is like unbelievable. It was just a little fishing village back then. And what we did is with these 30 economists, I was there with them in the morning. We'd tour the shop floor. In the afternoon, we'd spend time with all the leaders, hearing all the stats and so forth that they wanted to collect, because they wanted to know, could China change? That was the big issue here at the time. Well, I started to go back in 2012. Now, 2012, this is after the Olympics. You're talking about they don't show you the best. Well, this was during the air
after the Olympics.
They
crushed the Olympics.
Well, they did, but this was during the air apocalypse, which your listeners can also look up. So the air apocalypse was the worst atmospheric pollution that we have had in any urban area probably here in about 100 years. That we used to have this in say, London here, long time ago in the 19th century, where there was so much soot in the air from all of the chimneys that were churning out all this coal-driven energy here. It was literally pitch black at noon. So when you're in Beijing, you have to wear an N95 mask. This was before COVID. That's the first time I wore an N95, and I still went, even though maybe I shouldn't have, but I still went because I wanted to see what it was really like, and I wore the N95 here. So I saw some, and I used to call it, you said that China had the one-child policy. I called the air apocalypse the one-parent policy. Because I said, what's really half joking, only half. I said, China's doesn't want to have Japan's problem. Too many old people. How do you do that? You have a lot of pollution.
Wow.
But now what's happened in the last 10 years is they've gone huge into solar, as most people know. Well, what does that mean? Far less pollution. Far less pollution. Here, and you know that because you go to the cities and they literally don't have like the air apocalypse. I was there. I physically was there, where when you take off from Beijing, the airport in Beijing at noon, and it's totally pitch black. Once you're at 15,000 feet, the sun. Okay, this is real problems. Big problems, not just poverty. And so I saw it, but I also see China, they're cleaning things up, and we got to get moving here, Patrick. We got to stop talking we're going to get moving and just deciding that certain billionaires were going to fund their companies or help their companies get ahead. that we need to do more.
See this picture? Is this kind of what you're talking about? How it went from
Oh, exactly. I have
10
pictures.
days apart.
That's right. And also then in so in 2015 when I went to Wuhan, you would see Wuhan have, because it's it's more of a steel company, steel. So if you had a picture from Wuhan 2015 there. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I was literally giving talks in Wuhan. That's exactly right. And then I went literally last June. Okay. And it's just a different, now, does it ever get like that? It probably still does some. But I'm just pointing out that over time, what is happening here is changes occurring in China. And the other thing I learned is that very few people from America have gone to China since COVID. So before, in the last, the University of Chicago, we opened our Beijing center about now almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago. We have a Hong Kong center. It was really the thing to do, the fad, if you were in universities around the Olympics. The Olympics started all the universities, Stanford, et cetera, open these centers in China, a lot of them in Beijing. Well, what happened with COVID, and there's also we're mad at China because of COVID.
佩普不是 AI 工程师，几周访问也不能替代一份技术审计。他谈到的车间、办事大厅和城市服务，首先是个人见闻，其中的时间差、企业能力和城市辅佑，也要放回原片语境里看。理解中国 AI， 焦点不该只停在模型发布和参数排名上。技术进入道路、办事窗口和工厂以后，能否接上原有系统，解决具体问题，才决定它是不是可运行的能力。原片把重点放在系统调整上，建设、人才培养和产业现场能否随技术一起调整。这样的系统并非没有成本，也不能说明每座城市、每个行业都已经领先。外界若只把中国 AI 看成几家公司的竞赛，就容易漏掉更难复制的部分，让技术进入日常，再由日常使用检验它到底有没有用。